Unbroken, the podcast with Madeleine Black. Healing through storytelling.
Hello and welcome to Unbroken, the podcast with me, Madeleine Black, speaking to inspirational people that I have met along my journey, some that I know and some that have been introduced to me. And today's guest is one of those, but we had a little pre-chat interview and we just connected straight away. And I know you will love her too. She really has been on a journey, like all of my guests. There's been one trauma after another trauma after another trauma, but she has bounced forward and is now thriving in life. So today, my guest is Rachel Beck. She was an international award-winning photographer and owned a photography business in the Midwestern state for 8 years. Through her camera lens, she has developed a unique perspective and now weaves her vision into words. She holds a BA in General Studies with minors in Psychology and Gender Studies and has one goal: that her stories of triumph through tragedy inspire as many people as possible before she leaves this planet. She is also the author of her first book, Finding Your Way, which I have read, and I'm delighted to hear book number 2 has started as well. Welcome, Rachel. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, Madeleine, thank you so much for having me. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today. Thank you.
It is an absolute pleasure. So the very first question that I ask all of my guests is that what does the word unbroken mean to you?
It means a million pieces. That no matter how many times that you're shattered in life, you choose to put those pieces back together. Yeah. It's a constant choice, and that's something that I've made the choices to put myself back together.
And you have, after having read your book, known that you've been in pieces, not just once, not just twice. I lost count of the times that you had to literally kind of rebuild yourself. So life started for you in India.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So my birth mother, I was born in India, in Tamil Nadu, in southern India. My birth mom died 2 days after giving birth. I'm looking for my biological father, but I only have his first name, so it's very difficult, and I do search when I'm there. I was put into the founder of the orphanage, into her home, because the orphanage was being built at the time, and I ended up being adopted by an American, white Jewish family. And I've been very blessed with the parents that I've had, but I've actually had about 5 parents in my life. The 2 who birthed me, the 2 who adopted me, and then the woman who took me into the orphanage. So India is in my blood and in my soul.
Yeah, but India is in your blood and Judaism is in your blood.
Yes.
Yeah, so you are a fantastic mix. I mean, you are diversity just in the one body.
It's been challenging though, and I'm proud to be Indian. I'm proud to be Jewish. I'm proud to be American. But it's had its challenges.
Yeah.
And I've been giving talks on diversity awareness for 15 years in America, and I'm gonna keep doing that because I'm trying to end stereotypes of women, stereotypes of minorities, and stereotypes of Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's challenging, but I'm determined.
But that is the only way we make changes, isn't it? To challenge other people and to make them see that you're no different to anybody else just because of a color or a religion. You're just a female, a woman, a human, just like anyone else.
Yeah, and I'm trying to teach like acceptance,
yeah,
and non-judgment,
mm-hmm.
and to educate, right? Because a lot of things I come across are from people who are not necessarily, they're either not educated enough or they were taught a certain way, and I'm trying to break that.
Yeah, because I don't believe we're born with hate. I don't think hate is in our heart when we're born. We learn that, really, don't we?
Yes, hate is, I've studied this in university. I took a whole class on race relations,
Mm-hmm.
and it is absolutely learned behavior. So what I'm trying to do is to teach people how to unlearn it, that it's possible.
We need to unlearn lots of things, really, don't we? So
Yes.
in your book, you talk about just now that you've been parented by 5 people. And in your book, you very honestly talk about your journey with parenthood or the loss of parenthood. You were very excited to discover that you were pregnant, but you lost that baby.
It was absolutely horrific because for many reasons, because I had done, the infertility stuff that failed. Then biologically, it was a miracle that we got pregnant. And then I lost it in about the 11th week in that first trimester, which everybody knows is very fragile. And I have a psychologist in the family, and he said to me, Rachel, not only was this a huge loss of losing a child, but for you, this was your first biological connection. And when he said that, that was huge for me. It's like he understood. He said it's not just, it's that biological connection that you have. It's a primal thing for you. You've wanted it your whole life. And so I'm trying to be a voice for the infertility and the miscarriage community. That's extremely, extremely important to me because there's a lack of empathy, understanding. People say the wrong things after somebody loses a child. I don't think that they mean to do that, but I've had a lot of wrong things said to me.
What kind of things have been said to you?
Get over it.
Just like that.
Just like that.
So easy. We would do it, really, wouldn't we?
Get over it. You're not a woman because you don't have children. You're not. That one is really painful, and I'll be honest with you, it has come from other women. I've never had an unkind comment from a male about me not being a mother.
It's very hurtful, isn't it, to hear that? Even when I hear it, I read it in your book, and even when I hear it again, I think, who would say that just because, you didn't have birth a child? You're still a woman.
Yes. So, and then add on to Madeleine, 3 years ago, I had the hysterectomy.
Yeah.
So facing my womanhood, I had to redefine it. And I've been telling my network, guess what? You're still a woman if you can't have children. You're still a woman if you had a hysterectomy. Those are the things I battled, right? And then I hear from women who have gone through it and said, oh, Rach, I battled infertility or I lost a child. They talk about everything. So I've struggled with my identity my entire life.
And after you had your miscarriage, you decided to try to adopt a child, and you also had, I'd never even really thought this was a thing, a failed adoption. You had actually gone so far as to meet the child you were going to adopt, and it didn't go through. And I can't think of anything more heartbreaking or gut-wrenching than that for you. I was just crying in your book at that point.
Yeah, it was, and thank you for your empathy. No, I really appreciate it. It all happened in 24 hours. From getting the call, getting on the plane, meeting her, and then this was an extreme situation. I mean, an absolute extreme situation. It is where everything changed for me, and I had to make a choice again to get back up. Like you had read in the book, we came home, my husband had to run upstairs to shut the door of the nursery, and it took us a month, which is what a therapist said, to open the door. And then I donated everything to friends in a women's shelter to help them. And I've wondered why over and over again.
And did you ever come up with an answer?
Well, just like I'm supposed to be with my mom, how I was adopted, I think that the biological mother ended up keeping the child. So I wish them well in life. I think that was part of her journey. And as an adopted person, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
But the pain of it was huge. I didn't know, like I remember driving home, with my husband going, I don't know if I can do this again. Yeah. I just don't. And now I can say that, certain holidays really hurt. Mother's Day and Father's Day, I do post about for the infertility community.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely hard for them. And I celebrate my mom and my aunts and the women in my family. And this is why empathy is so important. It's just
Yeah.
so
But it seems like everything you went through just shattered your heart again, and then you put it back together, then your heart gets shattered again, and you put it back together, and your heart gets shattered again. I know at the start you spoke a little bit about the racism that you've experienced in America. Was that always from day one, or is that since, you know, the Twin Towers? Is that since 2001, or has that been the whole time?
It's been the whole time. My family's all white, so there's all questions. Like when I'm with my mom, still to this day in 2020, I'm getting questions about it. When her and I are together. It changed drastically after September 11th because America became black, became black, it became African American, it became white and brown overnight. And I felt the difference immediately. And now, because of the tensions in our country right now, it's elevated on a whole new level. So
And what kind of thing have you experienced as an Indian?
Since March, Madeline, I've had 5 racial events. I've had 2 where I honestly feared for my life. I had someone bang on my glass door asking me what I was. I've had another situation.
Hang on a second, they're asking you what you were. What do they mean by that?
He wanted to know exactly what I was. He just said, wanted, and luckily my dog was in the car, so my dog climbed over my lap and barked at him, and he said, "Oh, you have a dog in the car?" I said, "Yes, I do," and they drove away. I had another extremely scary experience that I can't even talk about because it was so scary. So I do my best. I leave my home, and this happens all over America. It's a very common question I get. Are you, does it happen on the East Coast? It's all over. I walk out the door and I put like a magic bubble around myself to, to protect myself and hope for the best. I hope for the best that I come home. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's hard to think that every time you step out your door, it's like not knowing, really, isn't it? Not knowing what's going to happen. Will today be okay? Will I come across someone that's going to give me some abuse, some racist attack?
Yeah. I never go anywhere without my phone. It's always in my pocket. I've learned what I've come to learn. It took me years, Madeline, to do this. That it's not about me and it's about them. And that changed everything once I realized that.
Yeah. And so in the book, you also decided to journey back to India.
Yeah.
And that was just lovely. You transported us straight back there, and you went and you met the woman who looked after you, and you went to the orphanage and met the children there. Can you tell us a little bit about that time?
Sure. So the woman who looked after me has passed away.
Mm-hmm.
She passed away a long time ago. She actually, but was brought back to India, and her gravesite is at the orphanage. And so the first time I lit a candle, and I thanked her for everything. I mean, I thanked her for saving my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically told her that I don't forget where I come from, and that everything I'm going to be doing is for the children in the orphanage to help them. It is amazing there. I love the children so much. To be a majority was huge for me. I never.
Your face lights up when you speak about it. Your face just changed so much when you speak about it.
Yeah, it was huge, right? One of my this highly intelligent person I know in my life. He said the best thing ever. He said, "What we need to do is get rid of minority and majority, and we're all one." India lights up my heart and soul. It does. Between the kids, I take hikes with them. I've had life-changing lessons there.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my work with the foundation is that, I did the photos. It helps them with their PR and their marketing. It's being with them, diving into my culture, learning everything about it, exploring, walking the area where my life began. So I've done 2 trips to India. I want to go back, obviously, when it's safe to travel again. That's really important to me. It's my other family.
Yeah. And did it just feel like it was so familiar to you? It was just so normal to be back there. This is kind of, part of your soul hadn't visited it.
It was huge, Madeline. The minute that I got out of the airport and my feet were like on the ground, my soul felt like it was home.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt like, and it was like I'd been on the plane for 24 hours. I still had another 3-hour drive from the airport to the orphanage, and all this was in dark, so I didn't even see anything until the next day.
Mhm.
But my soul just went, "You're home."
Yeah. And you now support this orphanage or the foundation where you started.
Well, a couple years ago, when I came back from the first trip, I planned a fundraiser and was able to raise some money for them. And then part of the proceeds of the book, I'm donating back to the orphanage. When I wrote the book, I made that conscious choice. I said, how can I do this to help the orphanage? And it's a huge Christian organization. They've been behind me 100%. And I want to do this. I have this goal, Madeline, that I want to reach in my head. I know what it is, but I'm going to do everything in my power to reach it. I'm very determined.
Are you going to tell us what this goal is, or you're keeping this secret, this goal?
I'm keeping it in my heart. I'm superstitious.
We shall hopefully find out when it materializes. So your book is called Finding Your Way, and obviously we hear about the multi traumas that you experience, but we also hear the big questions that you ask of life. Who am I? Why am I in this world? Really like searching for your purpose.
And that's been huge for me.
Yeah.
And I would say, Madeline, in the last year, I'm starting to figure out my purpose. You know from the book that I've almost died 3 times, that I think I'm understanding what my purpose is and why I'm still here.
Mm-hmm. So I can just hear my house phone ringing. That's really good timing, isn't it? So did the book help you? How was it writing the book? Was it cathartic?
It was extremely healing for me, but it also opened up a lot of things, wounds that I had, that were hard for me.
Yeah.
And then actually, my book came from an idea of one of my friends who I actually met in India,
Mm-hmm.
and we stayed, and she was back there when I was there, and she had said to me, Rachel, I feel extremely strong. She called me and that you need to tell your story. And I said, what are you talking about? I'm not an author. And she said, just sit down. Do me a favor. Just sit down on the computer and tell me what happens. The first day I wrote for 5 hours.
Wow.
And it was like that I scheduled from 6:30 to 11. And I would do this every day. And I wrote the book from August to October.
Brilliant. So the words, I always think when you're ready, the words will come. It was obviously your time to write it. And I get a sense, when I was reading your book, there are a lot of painful places, and it's a little bit like you just dipped your toe and you didn't explore them completely. You didn't dive straight in. And we were speaking before we started this interview that it takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable and to expose ourselves.
It takes a huge amount. Right. But when I hear people will write me, they'll say, oh, Rach, I just read the book. And especially from people in the adoptive community, that I had dinner with a friend, she adopted children, and she said, you know what, Rachel, I read the book, and this is the first time I understand my children. She said everything you talk about, because it's important to hear from people who are adopted. And yes, there's a ton of books on adoption written by PhDs, but for me to understand and to connect with a book on adoption, it has to be written by somebody who is adopted.
Yeah. And your journey was really, and it's nothing against your adopted family, but it's that having a blood connection or connecting to people or finding your birth family.
It's primal.
Yeah.
It's a primal need. And Madeline, I've been so blessed because my mom and dad are behind me 100%. They know, and from a very young age, they said, if you ever want to talk about your adoption, we're happy to talk to you about it, even now. And that's something when I give a talk, and there are adoptees who come to this, or adoptive parents, and they'll say, how did you create that bond with your parents? They said, one, they never called me their adoptive child.
You
I'm
were
their child.
always their daughter.
Yeah, I'm just Rachel, their daughter. They never once said this is, and they are my parents. I don't call them my adoptive parents. So because they did that and they gave me that level of respect, I gave it back to them. And because they've never treated me any differently than their two biological sons that they have.
Mm-hmm. Are they older than you, your brothers, or are they younger?
They're both older than me.
Okay, so you're the baby of the family.
Yes, yeah. So I'm the youngest in the family. And I've also learned about, because I've studied psych, like I've learned about survival of the fittest, and I've learned about nature versus nurture.
Mhm.
And my family's all wired the same. I'm not at all whatsoever. So and
you
they've
can
learned
see
to understand that.
yeah, you can see their genetic patterns, and you don't quite have those genetic patterns, the same patterns.
Yeah, I dream of a day, Madeline, where I meet and I should say this. I did do a DNA test, and I connected with like eighth cousins out, like really far out, and we've talked, and they're trying to search more family members for me. And I look, when I'm in India, it's extremely hard for me to do from here. But when I'm there, I take some time. I would love to just know my mother's name, which I don't know anything about. I do know that she was extremely young, like a teenager. So I'm not going to give up hope, and I'm going to keep trying.
But the search continues.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you never find out, what will that do to you?
It would be a piece of the puzzle I can never close, that I've wanted to close my whole life.
Yeah. Sometimes there is one piece missing, isn't there, in a puzzle, even if you buy it brand new.
It's huge. It is a empty space inside your heart that nobody else can fill.
And it's the constant, I guess, not knowing, and the constant inquiring and wondering.
I have so many questions. Like, I have so many questions that I just want the answers to. And it really would take like I learn information every single time I'm there. I mean, like big pieces of the puzzle I learn when I'm in India. Until I can get those missing pieces, no, I'll never be whole, ever. It's never gonna happen.
That's quite a statement to make, isn't it? Because your book, Finding Your Way, eventually you realize that how we respond to things is a choice. And you very much made the choice to realize that I can choose to be happy.
I remember those moments. I actually remember them where I was so broken that I knew that it was a make or break moment, right? So if I didn't choose to get up, then I knew that it wouldn't be good. And I've been blessed. I have a ton of family support, a ton of, friend support. I honestly don't know if I could have made it through everything without them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the power of women. That's the power of women. I have very powerful best friends that we've known each other, and we take each other through everything. And that's the power of women.
So do you think you had to feel completely broken until you made that choice that actually I need to repair this?
I think that if I knew from the first experience, I was like, okay, you got to fix this. Like, get up, do what you got to do. That first experience taught me to keep getting back up, that it would be possible.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that day. I was like, it was the day after the miscarriage. We'd come home 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was laying in bed thinking, I don't want to get up. I really don't want to get up, like, at all. And then I swung my leg. I was so physically tired from, the medical part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I have a choice now, get up or not get up. And I chose to get up.
And it is a choice. Every time you've been knocked down, somehow you have found the strength to stand back up again.
Yeah. And that can make or break you, at least in my experience. Everybody's experience is different. And so I learned again, over and over again, about the importance of resilience. I learned about you can do it no matter how hard it is.
Yeah.
But you have to want to do it. That's the big difference.
And are you finally happy with who you are?
Yeah, I've finally come to a place where, I don't know if it's something about being in your 40s, because I love being in my 40s.
Mm-hmm.
I've come to a place that I make the choice to be happy. That's something else I do. I made a choice to be happy no matter what. I held on to that.
What do you do to ensure that happiness? Do you have a daily ritual or something that you just say to yourself? What do you do?
This is so easy. You're going to love this.
Mm-hmm.
Surround yourselves with the correct people, the right people, people who are positive, people who are motivational, people who believe in you. That is everything.
Yeah.
That's the people who are going to empower you, the people who see something, like my friend who said, Rach, you need to write a book. The people who are going to see something inside of you that you never saw,
Mm-hmm.
that you never ever saw.
And do you see it now?
I mean, look, I have my insecurities like everybody does. I mean, everybody has insecurities. I think I understand my purpose, and I'm starting to understand that I am who I am, and I just would love for people to accept me for who I am. I guess that's the best way to say it. That I'm not perfect. I have many flaws and imperfections, and I'm okay with that.
And none of us really are perfect. So what do you think your purpose is in life then?
I think my purpose is to leave a footprint of positivity.
Yeah.
I think my purpose is to help as many people as I can in this world before I go. I think my purpose is to lift others up, to keep them positive, to keep them shining, to shine a light on other people. I think my purpose is to educate, it's to empower everybody, male, female, children, and because I do believe that can have a ripple effect.
Yep. We need to clone you, really, don't we, and send you around the world. So we have lots of positive Rachels all over the world, inspiring people to really just live and let live, isn't it?
Thank you, man. That's so sweet. I'm just blushed. It's really just, this is what I want to do. I can feel it from the bottom of my spine all the way up. And it's like this light every day, right? I get up, I hit the ground running to help my network. I'm trying very hard to help them to get them through the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a light that goes all the way up to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's saying, you need to do this. You can do this.
And if you are heart-centered, to me, you are in your flow. You are in your purpose, because coming from the heart, there's nothing more important than that.
Nothing more important. And yes, we have to work it all together, right? We've got our brain, we've got the cognitive side, and then we have the heart. But I will always lead from my heart and from that space. And I trust my heart. And yes, do I make mistakes? Absolutely. Absolutely. But looking back on the mistakes I've made, I would say they were more cognitive than heart. Now I protect my heart. I protect I can't be around people who create anxiety in my life, or if they know I have PTSD
Mm-hmm.
and they're adding to it, then I can't have them in my life, and I'm okay with that. I really am.
And so in the second book, you are now going to dive deeper into your story, really, aren't you? Because it felt like you were just kind of touching the surface a little bit. Well, this happened, but there was hesitance in you to really expose everything. But now you're going deeper into it.
Yeah, I'm going deeper. The first book, look, I was really concerned. I'm a first-time author. I was concerned about the periods, the commas, all the proofreading, and I hire an amazing publisher and editor. So she's going to do the second book with me. Now I don't worry about that. Now it's free flow thought.
Yes.
Right? Because she'll take it from there, and I can go deeper, but it's very hard. Brings back some. I've had days, man, I would write and had to sit down and really absorb and go through.
It's exposing again, isn't it, to go back to these shadows, these dark places. But that's how I guess you bring the light to it, isn't it, by going into these dark places.
Yeah, and it's I got to push myself through it too. Mm-hmm. And one of the things one of my therapists, my therapist had taught me was that she's like, writing is one of the most healing things that you can do. Absolutely. There's nothing negative about it. I'm an extremely creative person. If I'm not tapping into creativity at all, my soul dies. I have to do something creative every single day.
So when do we hope to see the second book out?
I know, I'm still writing it. I'm still working on it.
So before we finish up, can you share some advice for anyone that's listening that's maybe struggling to, I don't know, just recover after a trauma? It doesn't have to be the same trauma as you. What would you tell someone that's listening that's struggling right now?
Make sure you're with people who love you and understand you. You and I both know this, Madeleine. You learn your true friends when you go through a trauma, who are there for you. It was very eye-opening to me through all of them. I'll be honest with you. It's extreme. I really learned who my true friends were through it. Find the people who are going to love you unconditionally as you're going through trauma. I
think that is great advice, just to surround yourself with people that are going to pick you up, not drag you down.
Yes, and it's really you and I were taught this when we were 4 years old. If you don't have anything nice to say, then just don't say it.
Yeah, seems simple, really, doesn't it?
It's a simple thing, but yet you and I, we know people don't still follow it. If you are going to say something that's going to add to somebody's trauma, and it's going to add to who they are, what they're going through, you're not helping. You're not helping at all.
Yeah. So what you're saying, I guess, like you said before, if you come from your heart, your words won't be hurtful. They will be filled with kindness and compassion, which I know you are all about. So, Rachel, I just really want to thank you for your time today. I can't believe how quickly that whizzed by, the time spent with you. It's just been lovely connecting with you. You are such a bundle of joy and positivity, and I'm very grateful for you taking time out to speak to us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madeleine, for having me on the show. It's absolutely my honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Unbroken, the podcast, with Madeleine Black, playing now on all the main platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher for Android, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and here. Play Unbroken, the podcast, with Madeleine Black.